Thank you for that. So, I don't want to turn this into a classroom too much. I won't be asking you to put your hands up all the time, but for these first few questions, it is quite important to try and gauge where you guys are at in your wedding planning journey. A few of the questions I'm going to pop up on here and talk through. I apologise if I've already sat down with you and done your consultation. This is the sort of thing we go through to kind of plan your day. Sorry, Sarah, Claire at the back. The first question I always ask people is, have you been to many weddings yourselves recently? Quick show of hands if you've been to a wedding yourself in the last couple of years. Excellent. Ian, definitely. So the next question is, has there been anything on their wedding day, whether it be daytime or evening entertainment, that you can think that actually stood out and you walked away from that wedding and you went, wow, that was an amazing wedding because... A show of hands if that has actually happened or if you've just kind of gone through the motions. See? That's very good. The reason I asked that question is because how many of you sat here now, if you were looking out on the room on the inside in and you were the bride and groom of that couple of the wedding you'd just been at and they were sat at the far end of the room going, what, nothing at my wedding stood out to my guests? Wow. That'd be a little bit of a scary thought. So each time we're planning your wedding, each time we talk about a little bit of your day, we try and make things at each point that are going to pop. So there's something in the back of your guest's mind that just kind of go, oh, I've not seen that before. Oh, that's a little bit exciting. And we try and just build up a little bit of an atmosphere. The wedding day is all about it being a party. As much as you'll have seen the videos before, people dancing on chairs and dancing on the windowsills at certain points in the day isn't for everybody, but for some people, that is what they'll kind of take away, and having a little bit of this at the right times really does kind of set it off. Everything we do through your planning stage of the wedding, we try and make sure that we bring you into the wedding day and also make sure that your guests feel comfortable, but also walk away with that little bit of a factor going, So, moving swiftly on to the next part. This is a little bit of a time lapse of a wedding day. Every time when I sit down with couples again, not many people know what actually happens for you as a bride and groom at the beginning of your wedding day. Obviously, you'll have your makeup trials, hair trials, and that's just for the grooms. For the brides, it's a little bit more complicated. Only joking. So what we're going to do is talk for a wedding day that effectively starts at 1 o'clock and what that day kind of means to you. A lot of the videos and examples you'll see here are of actual Beeston Manor weddings. So if you are getting married at Beeston Manor, this is very good for you. So if you've got a 1 o'clock ceremony wedding, that is a time that you as a bride or groom would be walking down the aisle, and that's when your wedding actually starts. But majority of your guests are going to start arriving at the venue any time between 11:30 and 12. Now, as being a married man myself, I've been on the other side of this conversation, and on the morning of my wedding, I remember we got married quite late. We got married in Cyprus at about 3 o'clock. And I actually found that for the all morning, I was like, what should I be doing? Where should I be? Oh, there's something I need to be doing. I can't just keep drinking beer and be with the lads. It's just not kind of right. So hopefully this will help clear a little bit of that up for you as well in the pre-lapse. So with a 1 o'clock ceremony, guests will start arriving at the venue around 12. It's always good to be at the venue sort of like a good hour before, a good hour and a half before. But just mingle, just enjoy yourself, take in the atmosphere, enjoy meeting your guests, having a laugh with the groomsmen and stuff. It's about 12:30 when actually the registrar is going to want to speak to the groom or bride if you're staying at the hotel. And they do their official checks just to make sure you're the people that you're actually getting married to, things like that. But guests are actually going to start to be seated only 15 minutes before the ceremony actually starts. Now this, if you book us to look after live wedding music, you'll see the video at the back there. If you book us to do wedding ceremony music, this is where we kind of start. So the moment your guests walk into the room, we're kind of setting the ambience a little bit. You've paid quite a lot of money on the decor, flowers and things like that to make sure that the room kind of looks lovely. People walk in and get that immediate wow impression. And I always say that when you're looking at this side of things, if you're watching a romantic film and there's no music on, it doesn't matter what's happening on screen, it can just get a little bit lost. Or again, if the music is totally like juxtaposed to what is actually being shown in front of you, it can make a rather nice moment be a little bit silly. So choosing the right ceremony music is really good. Live music isn't live music isn't essential for every wedding, but certainly when you're at a wedding venue, it's something that makes it stand out a little bit more to previous weddings that you might have been to. Just looking through some of the requests and stuff that we've had already, there's some very stereotypical wedding songs that are in there. And I bet 9 times out of 10 on those song lists, if the venue have looked after the music for you and they've been playing the wedding ceremony music, majority of those songs will have been those songs. The benefit of having it live is that you don't have to have a song part of your wedding ceremony, that if you push play on the original version, it's perfect for the moment. You can take songs that are totally crazy, but still love-related, strip them right back, make them totally unique for yourselves. And if you've seen a few of the videos we put on YouTube recently, a prime example of this is Proclaimers 500 Miles. I always say this one because whenever I think of that song, I just think of it being a bit wedding cheese, party, everybody going a little bit nuts, and guys in kilts just having a bit too many to drink. When you actually listen to the words of that song, strip it right back. When I wake up, I want to be the one who wakes up next to you. When I grow old, I want to be the one who's growing old of you. When I'm working hard for you. When I come home, I want to come home to you. The words are actually very fitting for a wedding. So literally, you can take any song that nobody else may have had at their wedding and put it into yours and make it totally unique for you. That's the first start of things that will make your wedding kind of stand out, in my opinion, through the wedding ceremony. If that's not necessarily for you, obviously you can have harpists, quartets, or you can go for the wedding playlist and things and save your entertainment for a little bit later on. But in terms of the program of the day, so 12:45 the guests are seated, 1 o'clock the bride or the groom makes a big entrance into the room walking down the aisle. The other benefit of having live music for your aisle walk is, again, you don't have to time your walk to the exact timing of the song. Just for example, on that moment, I've spoke to many a bride afterwards, and they're actually like, I don't actually remember what song was on. I don't remember listening to the music. I can't remember hearing anything because your emotions were so high. There was so much going on that you were just concentrating on putting one foot in front of the other and taking in the moment. If you had a CD playing your music as your bridal walk, you might end up at the top of the aisle just at the moment that the song's about to kick into the chorus, the whole part you wanted that song to play, the whole lyrics that you wanted, and it's kind of like faded down really slowly and sounds a little bit daft. The benefit of having it live is that if I can see you've got 9 bridesmaids coming down and flower girls, kind of like the X Factor arrangement of songs. If I'm not into the chorus of your song whilst you're at the very top of the aisle, I can make sure that somehow I've kind of jumped into it and it sounds perfect. And when you get to the bottom of the aisle, you've just got your sort of 10 seconds while you're being handed off and it will sound perfect, hopefully. Usually in our experience anyway. Your ceremony usually lasts about 20 minutes. There's a few songs that kind of go in your wedding ceremony. So normally there's 4 or 5 songs whilst your guests are being seated. Your big important Our Walk song, a couple of songs during the signing of the register, and then you've got one more song for your exit, which is usually something that wants to be upbeat and happy. If you imagine the moment, some people choose kind of soppy songs again for that. For example, John Legend, All of Me. The moment is going to be, ladies and gentlemen, please stand up. Please give a big welcome to your bride and groom, the new Mr. and Mrs. Whoa, boom, 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 'cause all of me. It's a little bit somber and you want something a bit more happy, upbeat. Think Queen creates a little thing called Love. Stuff like Stevie Wonder, Signed, Sealed, Delivered. A little bit kind of stereotypical, but upbeat and kind of up there. For my exit song, I had AC/DC, Highway to Hell. No word of a lie. Moving swiftly on to the next part of your day, which is usually the afternoon reception. Now, if you were to book us for any of the daytime elements of the wedding packages, this is where I tend to come in. Usually as a wedding guest, and I'm sure you may have experienced this as a wedding guest in the afternoon reception, if there is no entertainment on, you've not no live music, no magician or anything kind of like that, all that you're kind of left to do is drink. While the bride and groom are having photographs, and this is where uncles get a little bit too many to drink because they're kind of getting taken away from it. But this is usually a good 2-hour point of your day for your guests. So let's say we're at 1 o'clock, they've been out of the house since like 10:30, 11 o'clock, not really eating much till the canapes are coming out. And at this point, if all they're doing is drinking till 4 o'clock when you come through for your wedding breakfast, I'm going to be falling over, I think. So the entertainment is a good factor just to try and keep your guests alert, keep everything kind of going on, kind of keep a little bit of flow in the day as well. You'll notice on the videos and on the timeline here, so at 1:20, that's kind of when the ceremony finishes, welcome drinks start. Usually your photographer will try and call in to do your group shots and formals with all your guests about 2 o'clock-ish. That usually takes about 10 minutes. And then at around about quarter to 3, another 45 minutes in, this is where you'll actually be asked to come into the wedding breakfast room, check it over, make sure that you're happy with everything. But that's quite a long time for your guests to be doing nothing, as we've kind of already said. What I try and do is, there's nothing worse than rushing or forcing interaction with people. I always find if I've been to weddings as a guest and they've had one of the crooner-style singers whilst you've been eating and he's trying to get you up on your chair and singing along, going daft, and you're like, I just want to eat my dinner, leave me alone a little bit. We don't try and force the interaction. We try and make sure it's banterful, a little bit playful at the certain points. If guests want to come and get involved and have a laugh with us and have fun, it really does open up the party, and we definitely welcome that at this part in the day. You'll also notice on the videos, I tend to get bridesmaids, groomsmen and things up behind the microphone stand. I usually do this around about the last 10, 15 minutes of the afternoon reception, just to give everything a little bit of a lift, just to make it that little bit of something different. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that kind of does this sort of stuff as afternoon reception, sort of uplifting entertainment. And it does work really well. You can see the reaction on the videos of not only the people involved, but the moment that this camera kind of pans around, you can see all the guests go from it being background to it just being a bit of a party. And hopefully this will make your afternoon reception stand out a little bit. And that brings us on to around about 3:10, when your guests are going to be called through to take the seats in the wedding breakfast. And if you've just had a party like that in the afternoon reception before the wedding breakfast has even started, just imagine what your guests are actually saying as they're walking through for the wedding breakfast, taking the seats to people they may have not known, sat next to you before. It's automatically breaking the ice a little bit, giving people something to talk about and getting the energy levels raised as we kind of move on. So, next we move on to the wedding breakfast side of things. At Beeston Manor, usually with a 1 o'clock ceremony, we'll be asking your guests to be seated at 3:10, which then means when we come to 3:30, we get to do your bridal party intros and kind of start the wedding breakfast off. Bridal party intros can be quite fun. It's a little bit of an American way of doing things. Normally, if you've been to these weddings before and it's just been the manager of the hotel that has been looking after the wedding breakfast, for example, what they probably will have done is walk into the middle of the room with a microphone or without a microphone and gone, "Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to welcome your bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs." And it's just a somber clap that kind of fills the room. And sometimes that dies off before you get to the table, but it's not really kind of energizing or creating any sort of atmosphere. One way we try and create a little bit of atmosphere is loud music, loud intro song, think something fun, wacky, if you want to go that way, if you want to kind of play it safe, just something kind of fun, wedding-related, love-related, but something upbeat that kind of reminds people that they're at a party, they're at a wedding, they're here to celebrate, just kind of keep the emotions a little bit high. We can do that with groomsmen coming in on their own to something funny. Think things like, "Right, said Fred, I'm too sexy." LMFAO, sexy and I know it. If you're feeling a little bit more out there, I probably shouldn't say this, but electric six, gear bar, things like that. Something that's going to embarrass them always works a treat. When it comes to the girls' side of things as well, stuff like Beyonce, Run the World, the Sugar Babes or Girls Aloud thing with Here Come the Girls, or just anything that may have come off the hen do or things like that. You girls might already have a bit of a theme tune, but we just try and have a little bit of fun when they come in. And then, if we're doing the bridal party intros or not, we then introduce you both into the room, and this will be either as, a safe song choice will be stuff like Bruno Mars, Marry You, Stevie Wonder, Superstition, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, sorry, I keep saying Superstition. Signed, Sealed, Delivered, something kind of stereotypical wedding need, but upbeat. There's also stuff like Rita Ora, We Came Here for Love, again, upbeat, love-related. If you want to go outside the box, again, stuff like AC/DC, Highway to Hell, Jay-Z, 99 Problems, if you're into your R&B, Kanye West, Gold Digger. You like that one? Yes. Kaiser Chiefs, I Predict a Riot, Neil Diamond, Sweet Caroline, or anything like that. Just something fun and upbeat that kind of gets a bit more of a reaction out of your guests. Don't be alarmed yet. All this standing on chairs we're not quite got to just yet. On this particular example, I've put speeches first, which I don't know if any of you have been a speaker at a wedding, if you've been best man. I'm hoping you've not been groomed before. You may have been, If you've been a best man before, you'll notice that it's quite a nerve-wracking experience, giving a speech. Even for me, I've been a best man twice, and even though I'm used to weddings, I'm used to public speaking and things like that, it was still the most nerve-wracking thing I've done, definitely, other than the TV voice auditions and things. What people don't tend to want to do when they're feeling nervous is eat. And again, as we talked about, it being a long day of drinking, quite beer-fueled, shall we say, I always think it's a good idea to get the speeches done early, And when we do speeches early, the other reason other than just people being out of the comfort zone and getting out of the nerves out of the way, it's more about keeping your timeline kind of structured in your day. There's a lot of times, and again, you may have experienced it, you've been to weddings before, if you do speeches at the end of the wedding breakfast, sometimes Nan may have gone up to the room after the desserts, and you've taken over half an hour just to get them back into the room, and you can't start speeches without them. Things like that all kind of puts on added delays in your day. So getting them out of the way first means that everybody's kind of flowing on the same page. When it comes to speeches, we can have fun with introductions. Again, intro songs for the speeches themselves, if it be the father of the bride, mother of the bride giving the first speech. Then again, for the groom, if you want something like that, or we can play it safe. And we can also try and embarrass and make a little bit of a fun about your best man or best men if you want to. Just try and make them feel the edge. Normally it gets the room rocking a little bit before they do the speech, so it's often nice to stand up to a room full of laughter, fun and joy instead of just silence like pin drops. With those speeches out of the way, normally speeches tend to take around 20 minutes to 25 minutes, and then we hit into the wedding breakfast where that's going to be served. I already touched on a little bit that, in my opinion, the food at your wedding day is the most expensive part of your day. And I certainly kind of feel that you should let yourselves and your guests enjoy food without kind of being too much interrupted, too much slowing down of service and things. And there's plenty of room in this program to kind of make sure that you can have the best of both. So people can enjoy the food, enjoy having a chat about all the fun they've had in a little bit beforehand. And then when desserts have come out, about an hour and a half later, that's when we can have a little bit of a party. Everybody's enjoyed themselves, and we kind of get people in the mood for the evening party. After you've had a 3-course meal, I myself normally feel like all I want to do is go to bed. And you can feel a little bit like, oh, zonked out. I call this, and many people in the wedding industry call this, the wedding zombie hour. And what we tend to do at the end of the wedding breakfast is have loads of fun with games, sing-along stuff, and that usually tends to get people well out of that and right into the party. And that's where these sort of scenes tend to happen. Again, don't be alarmed if you don't want these sort of scenes at the end of your wedding breakfast. We don't have to start the party early on, but I'm going to show you a few examples of what we kind of do at the end of the wedding breakfast. So some games that you may have come across on the internet and things, a bit of the safer ones is stuff like Mr. and Mrs. We can do something quite fun where we put these cards like they're on the tables now out on your wedding day. Through the wedding breakfast, ask your guests to write their own questions that I will then ask you for part of your Mr. and Mrs. Some people think that's a little bit risky, but it is vetted ever so slightly. Anything that can't be covered with a little bit of mild innuendo, we just scrap, and that's probably part of the fun itself. The other thing we tend to do is try and pit the tables against each other, put them into teams. One of my favourite games to do in a wedding breakfast is something we call Beat the Intro, where we kind of say, right, every table is now a team. They're all competing to win a bottle of Prosecco. If anybody knows the title of the artist of a song, they've got to then encourage everybody else on the table to stand up. The quickest table to stand up gives the answer, and it just kind of gets everybody in a bit of a fury. And instead of me just kind of trying to explain it to you, I'm going to show you a little bit of an example, and hopefully the sound is going to work.
The first song is this.
Some people say
And you can just see immediately how the atmosphere in the room changes.
Right, 1, 2, 3.
So, and I have chosen quite a younger wedding on this one, but it does work everywhere, and I'll show you the next one as well. See, a little bit of fun. No wedding zombies involved in that wedding. Just kind of get things going nice and easily.
Which one do you think? That table, right. Coming over to the top table. Title and artist. You have the final countdown correct for 2 points on the top.
There we go. The next bit as well, depending on what we've got time-wise in your program, is having a little bit of a sing-along. Usually I'll pick the guitar up, stand next to the top table, make a little bit of a joke about who is the best table at the wedding, try and get everybody feeling competitive again, and mention that if anybody wants to kind of win VIP status for the evening party, get unlimited requests for the DJ, they've got to give it their all for the next 3.5 minutes. Dancing on the floor is boring, dancing on the table is dangerous, don't do that, but anything else is fair game. And this is usually what tends to happen. Again, the songs can be stuff like Oasis anthem, sing-along, or if you do want a bit of your classic wedding cheese in there, you can't beat a bit of Neil Diamond. watch the room.
Let's break the game for summer. What do you guys?
So immediately, if you're kind of thinking of your guest list and thinking, this may not go down well with your guests, just take a look around this room and just see the different demographics in the room. And actually, Auntie Joan's having the time of her life. You never thought that was going to happen. Granted, I think Auntie Joan in this example was in bed for 7 o'clock, but still, she was enjoying herself. So this is all stuff we can have and try and cater a little bit more to your wedding party as well. So that's the wedding breakfast kind of over and done with. And as much as we talked through the program, I can know it can be a little bit daunting, a little bit drawn in, but hopefully the good parts and you kind of see them through the wedding day. We've just finished the wedding breakfast, and how many of those weddings that you were saying you've been to have had a party like any of those before we've even hit 6 o'clock, 6:30? That's the sort of thing that your guests may take away from your wedding day and go, boom. That is the best wedding I've been to this year or the best wedding I've been to, I've never seen it before. That's what we hope to do, definitely. And some people get worried that, actually, I've seen a lot of your videos, you've done a lot of videos at Beeston Manor, you've done a lot of weddings at Beeston Manor. How do you make it different? The benefit of having such a broad repertoire, the benefit of having customers who have different tastes in music means you've always got to kind of keep moving and going with the times. For these guys, it was stuff like Neil Diamond and doing the Beat the Intro. For other guys, it will be being a bit more of a risque sort of Mr. and Mrs. quiz and doing stuff like Cortinas or Mumford and Sons or Stone Roses, where everyone kind of gets going for it. You can just mix it up and about. When we come to your evening party, this is where the package formation can change into whatever you kind of want, really. There's a reason we have so many different packages, and I do apologize for those who've had a package brochure and kind of gone, I have no idea what I'm looking at here. It's far too much kind of going on, so many different choices and so many different things. That is another way that we can make each wedding that we do a little bit different, because there are so many different options of where you kind of slot in your entertainment just to make sure it kind of differentiates from each other. When we come to the evening reception, we can carry on as myself doing solo live music. We can just carry on with a DJ at night. We can carry on with myself and Lewis, who's my brother, who's also the other side of the duo that you may have seen at the wedding fairs and stuff. Bit of a cheeky chappy. If he comes in at the night time, that kind of lifts a little bit more energy as well. But also the way that we're performing, even with the solo stuff, the upbeated loop stuff, the more of the pre-recorded backing tracks and stuff, makes everything sound a lot more kind of louder, partier. Big sound system as well always helps. But we also have the full live band as well, and I'll show you a promo video of the live band a little bit later on. The benefit of the band over everything as well is it's still myself and Lewis fronting it, but every other musician in that band lineup as well is also a kind of a solo act in their own right. So you're getting the benefit of kind of 5 guys fronting your wedding party with different styles of music on each kind of guy's voice, and we all come together and have a good laugh with it. But moving back into like the program and stuff, whichever live music formation you kind of go for, if it is just DJ, this is what we're going to kind of think about in terms of how the night will flow. With a 7 or a 7:30 start, it's normally a DJ that kind of comes in and does the first hour. We have a couple of DJ options, whether you want all-out wedding cheese, a bit of a mixture of everything, or if you want something a bit more cool, classic club vibe, the DJ that can mix and kind of make sure it's no cheese at all. You don't want any ABBA or Macarena or things. We have a guy for that as well. With a 7:30 start, we aim for your cake cutting and first dance around about 8:30. Reason we choose 8:30 as a good first dance time is that if you're getting married in the summer, it takes till 9 o'clock for it to actually go dark outside. And what we try and do with your first dance and around that time is that's when we want the dance floor to really start partying. So instead of doing it at 8 o'clock, where people are more inclined to come in and watch first dance and then scoot straight off out the door and stay outside for another hour, doing it at 8:30 makes such a big difference, because it means that when we've got people on the dance floor, they are more inclined to kind of stay there and party there. It's at that time that we'd start the first set of music. So if you're choosing me to do your first dance, or the band. It's something that I offer to learn for you. Another, again, a unique version if you want a new unique version. The best first dance choices to kind of go for are songs that are naturally more upbeat, naturally more dancier, and strip them back so that when we get to a minute and a half in and we invite your guests to come and join you, that's where we kind of ramp it up, and everybody, instead of standing on the edge of the dance floor going, I don't want to come in and dance, I don't want to dance, no, don't make me do it, don't make me do it. The moment you get a drop and a big impact or a change in the song, everybody just kind of feels it. You know, it just kind of happens, helps push people onto the dance floor. So that's something good to think about. We usually find that the first half an hour of that live set, if it's a band, it kind of goes nuts all the way through. If it's a duo and the solo stuff, we tend to have a good sort of 30 to 40 minutes. Ian and Susie will probably vouch for this because they've done many weddings where we've just been doing the night party, and as much as they should normally stay and go after the first dance, like a song in, you're normally still there dancing around, aren't you, till about 9:15. So we tend to get a good half an hour of partying, get the dance floor going. Again, many of these weddings you've been to, if it has just been DJ-led, very rare do you tend to get the party started at 8:30 and it's still bouncing and dancing until 9:15. Normally takes a little bit later, so that's a good thing for the live music and interaction to do. About 9:15, that's when your evening food is normally served. We don't tend to dumb the music down or quieten down whilst people are eating because people are still here for a party more than anything. We just tend to choose the music genres a little bit more creatively around you guys. If your wedding guests, or should I say, if you and your immediate friends, if they don't want to be dancing to Whitney Houston, Nolan Sisters, bit of Motown and soul at 11 o'clock at night, but you still want a little bit of that in there for parents and things like that, so they can still come have a little bit of a boogie where it's not kind of at the peak of your party, we always tend to do that around about the 9 till 10 mark. Then when we get to 10 o'clock, this is where we really kind of home in on you guys and make sure that the music is what you want, what's going to keep you on the dance floor and keep all your friends kind of there. Certainly if you've got a lot of evening guests coming, friends from work, that's the sort of time when if you've been a guest at a wedding who's just got an evening invite, you're kind of like, I'm driving. Am I leaving the car? Am I staying or are we going? Are we going early? Are we going to bed early? Nah. That's why 10:15 when you can feel it, that's where the second set of live music kind of comes in. And again, we try and home it directly in on you guys, whatever is going to get your party started the most. The band set or the live set for that second set usually tends to be about an hour, sometimes more than that. We just see where the mood is. As much as we've got a timeline in front of us, we try and be very spontaneous with the set lists and with the timings. So we don't necessarily play the clock. We play the party in front of us. If we're getting to the end of the band set or the solo set, we've just done Mr. Killer's Bright Side, or we're doing a lot of R&B stuff live, or 90s dance stuff live, and we can kind of see this is really working, but we haven't got quite enough left in burner to kind of keep that energy going for another 15 minutes. We'll finish that set after maybe an hour and 10, jump straight onto the DJ seamlessly so that no movement in the dance floor happens. Everything just kind of flows nicely, and there isn't a kind of a big pause where people kind of go, and I'll go off to the bar now. We never want to give people the opportunity to rest. At Beeston Manor, our our music curfew for the whole party is 12:30. So where we are in the program now, 11:15, we then get a good hour of the DJ side from 11:15 through to 12:15. This is where, again, we're hitting your peak stuff, whether it be 90s R&B, dance stuff, modern dance stuff, whether it be a bit more what we call Freshers anthems, stuff like Reef, Blink-182, that side of it, or we're going all out cheese and it is going to be your Whitney Houstons and all that sort of stuff at that time of night. Whatever is your kind of key party stuff, this is where we're going to make sure that people are having the time of their lives at this point. No pun intended. Unless you can pull the lift off in a bit of a dirty dancing mood, and that'll be all right. Other sides of things that we can kind of add into packages, it's very popular at the minute, is the club sax side of things, where you've seen a sax player playing along to dance tracks, kind of getting the dance floor going like that. We have quite a few different people that we can recommend that we work with regularly. If you came to the catwalk shows at the weekend, you'll have seen there was James Bell up on there kind of doing whilst the girls are on the catwalk. This sometimes works really well, but again, it's not for every wedding. You know your guests better than we do. And if you think that, you know, a good 45 minutes to an hour of club dance music with a sax player is going to really make a difference, then that's something that we can add in. Come 12:15, this is where we're going to pretend that it's the end of the night. This is, again, if you've been to these weddings before, where last 5 minutes the DJ will put on New York, New York, or time of your life, or take that, never forget. This is a point actually at 12:15 that we want everybody to be in and on the dance floor and really kind of feeling it. Imagine you're both in the middle. We've got everybody around you at this point. We're going to start off with a live song, whether it be the Oasis sing-along stuff, whether it be stuff like Bon Jovi or something a bit more lovey-dovey that kind of kicks off so that, again, like your first dance, a minute or so into it, it kind of erupts and the atmosphere just changes and goes absolutely mental. The reason we do that at 12:15 is it means we can milk the hell out of that finale for a good 15 minutes before it's time to go home. Hopefully what we tend to find is that your guests are going away with like just being exhausted and no voice, instead of us doing it at 12:25 and you've literally got one song left to do and you get to that point where it's like, no, come on, more, no. And we have to turn off. We can't do anything else, but your guests still think we're rubbish because they're shouting at us and still want to party on. We're just trying to exhaust them as much as we can at that point. And that's usually how the live music and wedding floor entertainment would normally kind of feature in through your day. I did mention about the different options that you can have for live music. This is a bit of a promo from the band if you're interested in this side of it. This is actually at the Macron Stadium for about 2,000 people at a corporate gig we did last year, this one.
Is it fast enough so we can fly away? You gotta make the decision. Leave tonight, live and die this way. I remember we were driving in your car.
And our USB seems to be, we do a lot of songs in mashups. There's very little gaps between stuff, and all songs are thrown into mixes.
And a feeling that I belong. I'm in love with your body. Cause I'm in love with your body. Yeah. Your sex is on fire. Hey, I ain't never seen none that'll make me going this crazy all night. Spinning my flow. Had a $1,000,000 vibe with a bottle of gold and them birthday cakes they stole the show. Sing! I'll be ready. Girl, don't you fear. I'll be ready. Don't you dare look back. Just keep your eyes on me. I said you holding back. She said, this woman is my destiny. She said, shut up and dance. So don't you dare look back. Just keep your eyes on me. I said you holding back. She said, this woman is my destiny. She said, shut up and dance with me.
So there you go, that's a little bit of the band. Don't feel like you need the band at the evening party to really get it going. The solo stuff, the duo stuff does work really well. It isn't all imperative on having a band, but if your budget stretches to it and you really do kind of like that idea, then that is something to look for. Some of the guys in the band, usually every New Year's Eve, are off in Hong Kong playing at the football stadium. Those guys are all there this year doing it. Unfortunately, I wasn't. I was at home with the kids and 1 bottle of milk. I can't do that rock and roll lifestyle anymore. But it's so fun. The other stuff that we have, I'm sure you've seen flyers and stuff around and things from the open days, but we also do Magic Mirrors photo booths through Fab Events, which is another company that we have. The only reason I mention this now is that if you are interested in adding any of these sort of things onto your wedding packages, we at least give £100 or £100 plus discount on top of what the leading competitors are charging if you're booking it separately. The reason for these discounts is the fact that because we're all one team and we use the same sort of staff members and things, we come in the same van, it kind of cuts our costs down and pass it on to you. So Magic Mirrors photo booths, LED dance floors, the monograms. The only thing we don't kind of do is the love letters, but there is Creative Cover High here who'll be able to sort stuff like that out for you, and we can always advise as best as we can. I mentioned a little bit about the sax player and things and different DJs. Ryan Smith, who you will have seen on the posters and stuff around here, is one of our club DJ add-ons. This is the catwalk show that we did with James Bell kind of doing the sax. You don't necessarily see the atmosphere at a wedding, but you kind of get a little bit of an idea of what it entails. And that is pretty much it. All the different add-on stuff and the special prices of the add-ons and things can be found right there, just at the website /add-on. Well, thank you very much, guys, for listening. I know that sort of talk can be very kind of waffly on a Friday night, but hopefully you found parts of it useful. Hopefully it demonstrated a little bit of how we can fit into your day. And even if it isn't us that's doing it, it's give you some nice ideas to kind of put in elsewhere and make sure that your day kind of, as I say, pops, so to speak.